There we go. Oh, good morning. Welcome to Distracted Thoughts. I'm Aaron here with my friend Dathan. How is Dathan this morning?
Dathan's pretty good.
Yeah?
We've been we just realized that we're about 10 minutes into not hitting the record button.
Yeah.
And we've been talking about something that we should just be recording and talking about.
Absolutely.
Besides that, I'm pretty good. I'm good. I'm good this morning. This week's been rough. I've been bored out of my freaking mind. I don't know how to be bored. I don't know how to find joy in boredom. People like my wife can find joy in boredomness. I can't.
Well, it's funny. So Meg and I are. I told John when I ran into you and Garrett at the store the other day. Like So they pushed back one of our inspections to Monday, our HVAC and heating inspection. They actually pushed back to Monday. But it looks like the electrical will be there today. The plumbing is there tomorrow. And basically, John, our general, said, you can actually move in over the weekend because the HVAC people, they don't care if you're in it or not. So as long as we pass the electrical and plumbing,
moving weekend.
We actually will start. Now we're going to move slowly. We're not going to.
You're not doing it all in one day.
We're not going to do it all in one day, because that's just more anxiety.
Why?
Right.
You don't have to.
Well, and we've lived basically out of boxes or wherever for the last few. But like Meg and I were talking this morning. Like, what's it going to be like to not have to get up first thing on a Saturday morning and actually, and she said, and actually do nothing? Because we haven't been, you're talking about boredom. Dude, I haven't been bored in I don't know how long. I don't know.
You're looking forward to being a little bored.
I'm like, now I get it, because that can only last for so long. You can only
I'm
do
2 weeks into this. I'm what is the day, 20th? 18th?
18th.
I'm 18 days into this.
Yeah.
And I'm pulling my hair out. I'm not going to lie. And I know it's not just a being bored thing. It's being a man who has always been a working person, a physical working person, or they've always had something they're building or something they're doing. To be stuck in a spot where I don't want to start something from ground up and build something brand new business wise, because we're literally probably going to be, changing our lifestyle and moving into an RV and doing all this stuff. But we don't know exactly when that is. So I've got this unknown timeline that I'm fighting against every day.
Right.
And so at some point, I'm going to have to just shit or get off the pot. And I'm going to have to just pick something, do it, and then just work it out whatever happens.
Right.
I know that's what I'm going to have to do. I just don't know what that is.
Well, you said 2 weeks in, and I know your wife. I would imagine that you going stir crazy is driving her a little stir crazy.
Yeah.
Because
she's not used to me being around the house all day, every day.
Right.
With nothing to do.
Right.
You know. So
I mean, she's got another Declan at home.
Yeah.
Essentially.
She already sent me a text this morning. I mean, it is 9:12. And she sent me a text this morning and said, I'm already overstimulated. I'm like, you've been up for 2 hours. How does that happen?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it is that. It's too much is going on. Like, Meg and I talk about that with her. There's sometimes that it's just too much. Sometimes there's just, now the way we're wired, you can manage through it, or you actually do thrive in it. Like I thrive in the more things that are going on to a point. The more things that are going on, you do well. And then there are other times it's like, if it's too quiet, I actually say this all the time. If it's too quiet, I'm going to get myself in trouble. I'm going to do something, I'm gonna look for something to do, and it's not always the best, and that's silly.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that now as an actual adult, maybe. I know that that's not healthy, so I do better at avoiding it. But the younger me, man, that went trouble.
Yeah.
Would find it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of nuts. So you have, I was gonna, so you got this, you're kind of up in the air. I also knew you're doing something different with the kids. Cole is actually in public school right now.
He is. Our first time we've had a kid in public school in 12 years.
Okay. So you've got one that's not quite school age yet.
Yep.
Declan. Okay. You got Cole that's actually in
first grade.
Okay. And then you have Garrett is a freshman or sophomore?
Both. When you're homeschooled, you take some.
Right.
Technically, he's a freshman.
Okay.
So
you have the range of kids in school, and you're home for the first time 2 weeks. Last 2 weeks you've been home, and Garrett's home. So what's that been like, seeing your teenage son fight through, and also not having Cole there?
Yeah, so not having Cole there is actually, so I have a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old,
right?
And they're 18 months apart, and I mean Declan will be 5 in 2 weeks. So they're best of friends,
right?
They're also worst of enemies sometimes, but they're best of friends for the most part. So they always entertain each other.
Right.
Well, when you take one of those out, now Declan still wants to be entertained 24/7 the whole time he's awake.
Right.
And it falls upon me and Alexis.
Yeah.
That's probably why she's overstimulated this morning. Declan's probably asked her to read 47 books and go outside and play and build mud pies or something. I don't know.
Right.
Because that's just how he is. He has to be stimulated constantly.
Right.
So that's been a whole transition.
Right.
On top of that, I've had to watch my son. My wife is always taking care of the homeschool stuff.
Right.
We agreed a long time ago. She's like, I would like to handle this. I'm like, all right, cool. You handle it. I'll back you up. And watching my son transition out of your basic core knowledge of things that you learn up to about 8th grade, into high school has been difficult. I watch him sit there and struggle through doing mundane tasks. He's not having a problem doing them.
Right.
He doesn't enjoy it. I watch the joy get sucked out of him as he sits there and does it for 2 to 3 hours.
Yeah.
And we've tried different subjects. We've tried different things to pique his interest. And it still comes back to the mundane worksheets, the mundane curriculum, the basic bare bones, teach to the lowest style because that's the grade you're supposed to be in type thing. And it was difficult. For 2 weeks, I've watched him, since school started back, I've watched him do this every morning, struggle with this, And so I started looking over the work. And I'm not a big, tell you right now, I am in most instances against any kind of education beyond high school. College and stuff like that, in most instances.
Yeah.
There's definitely things and careers that you need to go into that you need some time or more training. Right. Now, that training is only college level because the world has made it college level.
Agreed. I absolutely agree.
A nurse could become a nurse and be more educated in the everyday things they're going to be doing by interning and by shadowing way more than textbooks in a classroom. But like I said, I just don't agree with the stance that college is at right now and the way college is put together and the way it's really geared to just make the colleges more money instead of making the people more money.
Essentially.
Well, that has started to trickle down with the advancement of technology, with the advancement of the way the world runs and works right now. That has trickled down into high school now. So the education system forever has always been behind the times of how real world is. I mean, even, 30 years ago when I was going through high school, when I started high school, even the things that we were learning there didn't educate us for when we hit 18 to get a job and go into the real world.
Yeah, there are very few classes.
Very few classes, but like even in my high school, as soon as my high school started, they had eliminated shop class. They eliminated ag. They'd eliminated anything that had to do with anything that you would use your hands in and work beyond high school. So like that, my freshman year, they did it. They also eliminated the last class of sports my 10th grade year. So my 9th grade year, if you were in a sport, your last class of the day was your weightlifting class or your sports class.
Right.
Well, they eliminated that my 10th grade year and said, nope, if you're going to do sports, you're going to do it all after school. It can't be any part of your curriculum.
That's dumb.
So it had started then. But now what I realize is that with technology, with AI, with the vastness of the internet, with new softwares and programs coming out daily, with new apps, everything being at your fingertips, you could ask somebody who has no knowledge on a subject to give you some answers, and they could give you answers. They may not understand the answers, but they could give you those answers that you're looking for within seconds.
Yeah, but you definitely want to cross-reference those answers. Oh, yeah. Like I was obviously read different psychological studies, and one of the things that I ran into with depending wholeheartedly on one or using just one specifically, there was actually a gentleman, actually originally from out your neck of the woods, out in North Carolina, that way, who started asking questions of a particular AI, and I won't name it, but the AI kept feeding in, and basically the AI wrote a story and convinced this man that it was fact, and up to the point where they wanted to commit him. And then one of his family members came and took the data that he was presenting. Like the AI was telling him, you should publish this work. This is groundbreaking. They took it and plugged it in to another AI, and the other AI says, this is shit. Yeah. Essentially, this is where all these theories that you're postulating break down and how they don't make sense. Yeah. And so that's where, yes, it's good, but with caution.
Well, and I think I agree completely with that. And so what I'm getting at is I think it's more important to teach your high school age kids nowadays how to learn. Yeah. And how to compare answers and all this more than commit all this to memory so that you can have this stored in your brain forever for whatever reason. And maybe one day you'll pull a piece of it out and learn it. So for me, it's more teaching someone how to get the information they want and how to check the information they get over learning the information and then storing and then testing on it 2 months from now. Right. You know, especially if it's not something a career you're going to ever use.
So it's funny, so I'm not a traditional education believer, you know, even though both of my kids, like Sophie went through traditional education up until her sophomore year. It became really apparent that it didn't make sense for her. And so we made the decision to test and see how she'd do. She ended up with a GED. And that's something, I'll get on a rant about that later. I hate the way people denigrate the GED because they don't understand what it actually is. You know, you can actually get college credit if you score high enough on your GED.
No.
Yeah. And people think, oh yeah, it's bottom of the barrel. No, actually, if you test high enough on it, you can actually get college credit. So shut up before you, if you don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, so she tested out and she worked for a little while after she was done, and then tried out a couple of different careers. She actually went to work for Alta, pulling chain for a while, you know, doing one of those super manual labor jobs. She did that for a while, realized she didn't love it. It wasn't her thing. Then decided, well, I want to try. And she actually did a tour with a friend of ours over at the hospital over here. And they actually had her do a test poke. And she found out that she loves the medical field. And so she draws between, she averages 35 blood draws a day. And I guess she's really good at it. And she's never drawn my blood. But one of the ladies that we go to church with did go there, and she's an older gal. Then, they have rolling veins, whatever.
Yeah.
But the lady said, I told Sophie 3 strikes and you're out. You try 3 times, and then I won't. And Sophie told her, okay, well, just look away for a second. And the lady says, okay, go ahead. And Sophie says, oh, I'm done. She didn't even know. She had drawn her blood, and the lady didn't even know Sophie had done it.
Wow.
She's like, she's amazing. Well, she's a kid she's a high school dropout with a GED who is fantastic in her field.
Yeah.
And loves what she does. With the other side of it, and this is actually where I see Garrett going. James, we did during the whole COVID stuff, we were at home. We actually pulled him out. Before it actually happened. But James ended up doing, because the high school system is geared to the lowest common denominator. It really is.
Yeah, it is.
He ended up doing a year and a half's worth of school in less than a year. Well, now he's a senior. He potentially wants to go to college for sports.
Gotcha.
Okay. Because he is an athlete. Okay. But what his day looks like now? He has a 0-hour college level PE class. He actually uses their gym. It's basically a free gym membership to him. That's all he cares about. He gets to go. They give him a grade. He has 2 online classes that he does in about a week's worth of work. He'll do in 2 to 3 hours at most. And then he has work study. And so he works he was just leaving when you got here, but he works from 8 until like 2 or 3 in the afternoon. And then he goes and does sports. And that's it. So he's working. He actually getting more education working. Why don't we do more of that kind of stuff? He's doing it at his own pace. He's still getting a high school education, but it's more practical. And he doesn't need to be sitting in a classroom when he can do all the work in 2 to 3 hours. I could actually see Garrett becoming this if you had left him in traditional education. James is what I call an AF student. Okay.
You're going to get an A or an F.
Yeah, that's exactly.
That's it.
He learned early to game the system. He knew the work. He knows the material. He knows where to find it and how to do it. And so he would do 2 out of 3 assignments, because 2 out of 3 assignments made sure he had a B or a C. If he cut back to every other one, he would get a D or an F, and he knew it, because he's only getting half credit. But if he did 2 out of the 3, if he got the
bare minimum,
F,
just to get by,
because missing that 3rd assignment, getting that F, just not turning it in, saved him time. He already knew the material, and he still got a good enough grades by high school standards.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So I couldn't be mad.
Yeah, I was like, you can't be mad at something like that because the system has been set up this way, and he found a loophole.
Yeah.
I found it when I was in high school.
Yeah.
My loophole was that every teacher in our high school, so we had block scheduling, so we only had 4 classes a day. Yeah. That's why every class was an hour and a half.
Yeah.
We had 4 classes a day. We had 4 classes for the first half of the year, and then we had 4 completely different classes. So we got 8 credits throughout the year. Instead of 7, which is like your traditional.
Yeah.
So every single teacher offered some sort of extra credit work. Every single one of them. And the extra credit was always simpler than the homework.
Yeah.
And when they went to block scheduling, it was some of the teachers' first time ever doing block scheduling.
Yeah.
So they gave you a syllabus at the beginning of the thing that showed how much tests are worth. Your overall tests are worth 20%. Your homework is worth 10%. Your in-class, whatever it is, and tests are worth this much. So I looked at it and said, okay, in order for me to get a B or a C, If I never do homework, and they're going to give me, I can earn up to 20% of my grade with extra credit. And this teacher, because she is the track coach, will give you extra credit if you attend all of the track meets that are local. All you got to do is come and cheer them on. She'd give you 20% of your grade was extra credit. I never did any of my homework, and I could always eliminate at least 1 or 2 essays throughout the year, big things that I was able to do, and would still get B's. And the teacher actually had a parent-teacher conference with my mom towards the end of the school year, end of that portion, and she was like, I really have an issue with the fact that Dathan's making a B in this class, but he's never turned in a piece of homework ever.
Whose fault is that?
And my mom goes, he just tells me he doesn't have homework. And because that's what I was telling my mom, I don't have any homework because I didn't work it out, you know?
Yeah.
And the teacher looked at me, she goes, why would you say that? I was like, because I know from the beginning of your class that if I never did homework but did all your extra credit, I could still make a B.
Yeah.
And she kind of sits back and she looks and she says, well, that's the truth. I was like, so I'm sure she probably ended up changing it. She probably screwed the rest of the students. I probably screwed the rest of the students. But the same way, I found a loophole, just like James. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, my senior year, I didn't even have to go to class. I went one time a week and I checked in.
Yeah.
And that was it. Because I found a way to do all my classes beforehand. Yeah. And so with Garrett.
Yeah, I was gonna say I could see him going that way, but why incentivize it? There are better ways to go about it.
Yeah, so like while we were talking earlier, so what we decided to do with Garrett is do 3-month, pretty much semesters, but every 3 months, he is going to be focused completely on one category or one subject.
So more like project-based.
Project-based. Everything's going to be a project. It's going to be, we're going to be breaking them down in 3-month projects. Okay. Because let's be honest, in the work world, in the career world, if you're going to be in the tech world or anything like that, that's about what happens. You're running 3-month projects. All tech worlds do.
Oh yeah, talk to Joe Gray. That's his whole life.
His whole life, contract to contract.
Yep.
So like his first 3 months, he started yesterday, and his first project is game development. Is video game development. And I mean, there's a lot he's got to learn, you know, but because he's interested in it, I told him, I said, I want you to spend 2 hours a day on just looking up the best way to get involved in game development, the best softwares for beginners, things like that. 4 hours later, I told him he only had to spend 2. 4 hours later, he comes to me and shows me these characters that they're digital like bit characters, you know what I mean? But you can tell what they are, that he has created, that they're going to be part of his game that he has to give me at the end of these 3 months, a functioning game. And he's showing me that he figured out how to make these characters walk from this place to this place and open a book, or walk from there to here and put the book on a shelf. And it shows it on the screen. And he's learned, he don't know anything about coding.
Yeah.
But you don't have to anymore.
No.
And he will learn it as it goes along. He will a byproduct of him learning how to develop this game through this software, because I told him he had to pick a software that he's going to use that when he gives it a prompt, it shows him what he wants and it shows him all the code on the side. So he's going to start recognizing that code one after another anyway. And so for the first time ever, I gave him a schoolwork assignment and he spent twice as long as I told him he had to on it because he wanted to.
Right.
So at the end of 3 months, he's going to have a basic understanding of game development.
Yeah.
You know, he's going to have a leg up that high school wouldn't teach him.
It's funny. So for somebody like Garrett, who's interested in the tech side of things, the gaming, the support. So this was actually in my previous career, working for, not previous career. When I was working in the schools, one of the things that I actually learned from one of the local tech companies down in Sandpoint was they actually preferred high school students who had certificates, had the actual programming certifications over a college grad. Because the college grad they knew theory.
Yep.
Right?
No practical application.
They knew all the theory, they could name all the way things, but they hadn't actually gone in and hadn't actually done necessarily any of the programming. So if they hired them, they actually still had to teach them the programming language. They had to still teach them, where high school kids that went and got C++ or Python or these different coding languages and actually had got certifications in it. And you can pay, oh, I think I still have the information, but you could pay these kids could, it's kind of like getting a electrical certification, a plumbing certification. You might do it for 6 months to a year to get the certification. And it costs like $1,000,
yeah,
$1,800, whatever. And these kids walked in because they were certified. They were more qualified than the college graduates because they actually knew how to get in. They also, and this was again where we live, they also didn't have some of the bad habits that come from college students as
That's
well.
exactly right.
They didn't have some of the questions. They just wanted to do the work because they liked the work.
Yep. And that's where, and on top of that, Garrett's been wanting to learn. He's been wanting to start his own YouTube channel, just for documentation purposes. He's not trying to make money off of it or anything like that. That comes cool, whatever. But he's wanted to learn that portion of it. So what I told him is like, listen, we have GoPros. We have all that stuff.
Yeah.
Every day when you sit down to do your schoolwork, set the GoPro up on a tripod right here beside you and just record what you're doing and talk about what you're doing and everything. And then at the end of every week, break those hours down into a 20-minute video and post it on your channel.
Yeah.
Pull the highlights off of it and post it on your channel. Yeah. And I was like, you will have people who follow you for your 3 months project of this month of what you're going to do.
Yeah.
And learn from you. You will actually be educating other people on a broad basis while you're learning.
Yeah.
I was like, and I was like, and it gives you the ability to, on top of that, you're going to learn the ability to video edit. You're going to learn you're going to learn like the YouTube algorithms. You're going to learn all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And it's going to make you more comfortable to teach someone else because you're talking to a camera.
Yeah.
And so he's super excited about all of it. He's really excited about the fact that he doesn't have to get up and do a worksheet that is a copy and paste of another worksheet with 3 things changed.
Well, so that was one of the things we learned helping Sophie with the GED program. It wasn't, they give you everything. Math, you have to kind of know some of the formulas, but I'm pretty sure they let you use a calculator.
They do.
Yeah.
They do.
So as long as you know the basics of it, you're fine. The other 3, the science, the history, and the writing, you just have to read. Yeah. If you can read and pull the information out and then find the answers out of the information you've read, that's all they're looking for. Well, in the learning style that you're talking about, that's all you're doing anyway. That's actually the best way to go about it is, can I read this thing, extrapolate what I need out of it, and be able to answer the questions? And you're right, that's more valuable. I've been out of school for 32 years. I've been out of school 31 years since I graduated. Dude, I can't tell you. You know, the one story I tell about school is the fact that I failed home ec. That's the one.
I've heard that story.
that's the one thing in high school that I remember. If you were to ask me, and I got picked for I did the high school paper. If you were to ask me about any of the rest of my classes, no, I don't remember crap.
No.
I don't remember any of that stuff. Even my college, and I have 8 years of college under my belt. Theory, what? I mean, okay, I know where to find it. I know where to look.
Yeah.
I had one class where we had to study medicine and their interactions, like different. We had to study, and we had to make a list of 600 different medications and their reactions, right? You know what I know? I know where I can go look to find out. You tell me what medication you're on. I know where to look to go find out what it does and what it interacts with. You think I have those 600 memorized? Not a chance.
No. And it's that's the way the world is right now. The world is we have all the information we need at our fingertips.
Well, okay. I actually think it always was, and it's more available now with the internet. Okay. It was that way before, except you and I would go to the library.
Yeah.
And it was a matter of, hey, I needed to go to the library and I needed to go look up the information. And it was more about going to the library and finding it. The modern library is just bigger.
It is. And it's just at your fingertips at all times.
Right.
And you know, a lot of people, and I've only heard this argument from older people, who pretty much have grown up without the internet and don't really use the internet a lot.
Right.
But they'll give you this argument of, well, all this new technology is just making everybody dumber. And my answer to that is, how much more brain space and capacity do I have to learn the things I want to learn because I'm not trying to retain the things that I care nothing about? Because I know where to get them.
Right.
If you had to think every day and study those 600 medications and keep them in your brain, it wouldn't do you any good, but it would take up capacity of your processing power.
Yes. Yep.
You know, and for me, I would much rather teach this up and coming generation how to work with the technology to gain more knowledge. And what about the people who went to school to learn how to be, I don't know. I'm not going to pick like a doctor or anything like that. But somebody who went to school to get a master business degree.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
They spent 8 years of their life.
Yeah.
And they had to take all these non-classes that meant nothing for that. Okay.
Yeah.
How quickly, if they only had to focus on business and learning everything they know about business, if you put them underneath someone else that's already doing business, or even then, you didn't have to put them under it. They just spent the amount of time that they spent every week working on mundane college stuff that you had to do and focused only on that business. They could have done it. What they learned in 8 years, they probably could have learned in a year.
Yeah. I'd say year, 2 at most.
2 at most. They could have learned pretty much all the basics in a year and then honed it that second year to be way beyond anybody who graduates 8 years from now.
So my argument when people say it's making us, I actually say yes and no. And what I mean by that is 100 years ago, you had to know a little bit about everything, right? Because you had to be able to grow your own food, make your own clothes, have some mechanical knowledge, different things like that. And over time, that has become less and less. Why? Specialization. People have become more and more specialized. So we have I'm not a mechanic. You are, right? Guess what, Dathan? I'm coming to you because talking about brain space, I know how it works. I know the basic operation, and I know when something goes wrong.
Yeah.
But that's all I have capacity for. But guess what? Because of specialization, I can take it to somebody else and say, hey, help me out. Can we work a trade? Can we figure out how to do this? Because, I'm essentially I'm a study of social things, right? I study interactions of people and different things like that. Okay. Well, because I've specialized, I'm better at it than other people. Yeah. And it sounds pompous, but it's like I can see things that other people don't. I can have conversations that other people don't or might not. Okay. But that's the specialization that's been allowed. So when an older person, and my grandma does that, she's 80, she'll be 86 in November. When she says that, she'll say stuff like that, I said, yeah and no. I mean, my sister is an ER nurse. That's what she does. She's a pretty freaking good ER nurse. I mean, like, she does well. She doesn't know shit about farming because she doesn't need to.
No,
she doesn't have to.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, there are some things there's some knowledge that I used to retain.
Yeah.
That I have now don't retain anymore.
Right.
Like when I would get directions to go somewhere. I mean, I grew up learning how to read a map.
Right.
And watching for road signs and paying attention. So then I transform into like the 2000s where we didn't have our smartphones yet, but we had MapQuest.
Right.
We'd go on MapQuest before we took a trip. We'd print out the directions on the papers that showed our route.
Yeah.
Now I have Google Maps on my phone.
Yeah.
And I have, if I'm going to go from here to somewhere in Montana or Washington,
right,
I am not going to go to memory and put it to my brain and study that route before I take the trip.
Right.
No, I'm going to set the phone up on my car holder. I'm going to hit start on the navigation, and it's going to tell me where to go. So yes, but now, has it changed how I perceive my sense of direction? Sure. But I still have a sense of direction.
Right.
A north, south, east, west, where I'm going,
yeah.
which direction I'm going in. I have gotten lost where there was no service before, and we were traveling in the RV. And I had to revert to just watching road signs and traveling. And did we overshoot some things? We did. We did.
Yeah.
But it was okay. That's less likely than having to try to read a hard map nowadays.
Well, so I got one for you. One very similar to that. So I bet you I could ask you what your best friend's phone number was in high school, your parents, your old phone number in school. I bet you I could ask you some of those, and there's a chance you would pull out at least a couple of them.
Oh, yeah.
Phone numbers.
I can think of them already.
Right, right. Nathan, what's my phone number?
I have no idea.
I don't know yours either. No clue.
Somebody asked me what my daughter's number was the other day, and I was like, I know what it starts with, but I don't know the last four.
Right.
Because even when it comes up on my phone now, the number no longer comes up.
Right.
So if you have somebody saving your contacts, used to it would be their name and then their number. But even like my newest phone, it's just their name.
Oh yeah,
it doesn't even show them. I have to like click on their contact, click on info, and then it will show me their number.
It's in like on my phone. It's a huge picture of them, whatever they've put in as their, or if I've changed it, and their name. And like, it's funny because we were talking about James earlier. For some reason, it pops up a picture that his sister put in there, and then his is the only one in my phone that his text is red. Like, everybody else's is white. Why is James's red? Well, somebody's messed with it. But you're right. I don't have a clue. Like, if my phone were broken, I could call my wife.
I could call my wife. That's only because her number is one off from mine.
Yeah.
No, it's not. That was our old phone numbers. I know her number though.
Yeah.
I don't know Garrett's phone number. I don't know Addison's. Yeah. And I don't know any of my friends.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody's number.
Yeah.
I don't know my mother's phone number.
Right. So that talking about that data dump, the things that are no longer important. I mean, like, I don't know anybody's phone number. I have no clue. Like I said, I know my wife's. I know my grandma's because it's been the same phone number she's had for 50 years.
Yeah. Like, I could tell you what my parents' numbers was when I was growing up.
Yeah.
I know that phone number. I could tell you what my best friend's number was when he first got a cell phone.
Yeah.
Because that was back when we would call from payphones and stuff.
Right.
I can tell you what my first cell phone number was, but I can't now because and like I said, now I know my wife's.
Right.
So like in a situation where I lost my phone and I had to borrow somebody's phone to call somebody, if I needed to get a hold of my daughter, I could call my wife to get my daughter's number.
Yeah.
Or I could call my wife and say, call this.
Yeah.
I know one or two enough to know that I could.
You know enough to you know enough you could get by. You know enough you could actually be rescued if you needed, if you're stranded someplace. But yeah, that's as you were talking about learning things and thinking things differently. That's just brain space that doesn't need to be occupied because it's there. Oh, and then somebody says, well, what happens if what happens if cell phones quit working? Well, then all of us are screwed.
And I got way bigger problems if the grid goes down.
Right. I
got way bigger problems than worrying about somebody's cell phone number.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's what, and I was going to touch on that.
Yeah.
I have friends that are on the doomsday prepper side of things.
Yeah, yeah.
And not super hardcore.
Yeah.
They don't have like underground bunkers that I know of. But a lot of them be like, well, you need to know how to grow your own food because if the grid goes down, listen, there's still going to be specialists.
Mm-hmm. There are.
And I will surround myself with those specialists.
Yeah.
I will find somebody who once was a doctor or a nurse.
Yeah.
I will find somebody who was a gardener.
Yeah.
And guess what? I know how to fix cars. I know how to I know how to build things. I know electrical. I'm the mechanical side of that stuff.
Yeah.
They're going to need my services just as much as I need theirs.
Yeah.
It's just going to work into a barter system.
Yeah.
At that point in time. So, there's no way one person could have knowledge to do everything.
No.
I took a learning how to field dress and medical class. Mm-hmm. Like back in my prepper stage. I went through a major prepper stage.
Okay.
I learned how to do sutures and I learned how to do all different hooks and everything. That was like 8 years ago.
Yeah.
I'd probably kill somebody before I saved them nowadays. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I come across it because I bought one of those like medical work kits where it's like tissue. It feels like tissue that you could do.
Yeah.
I come across it the other day when I was cleaning out my storage room and I was like, I'm never going to use this thing again. You know what I mean? So it was like, I spent like 6 months learning all this stuff and then it got dumped because I never used it.
Yeah.
So and that's kind of the same thing that happens in a lot of high school nowadays. They learn all this stuff. They have to retain it to memory because they have tests and they have all this stuff. But as soon as they don't need it anymore, it's a dump.
Right.
I mean, that's what it was for me.
It was for me.
Yeah. Most of my schooling was that. I learned more social skills going to social events and knowledge than I ever did actually in a classroom.
And I actually, mine was the practical experience. I was actually talking to a young man the other day, and I did door-to-door stuff for a while, like literally, and then I taught people how to do it. I learned more about the one-on-one social interactions by being in the field and actually talking to complete strangers. My wife jokes all the time. She's like, "You've never met a stranger. You can talk to anybody." Yeah, because I've probably in my life knocked on. Oh, I just did some rough math the other day in my head, just kind of flip around it. How many we do. I probably knocked on 150 to 200,000 doors, if not more, in my life. Either through my own stuff or through training other people to do it. Yeah, I probably knocked on 150 to 200,000 doors in my lifetime.
Wow.
And so that, you want to talk about learning social skills, and some self-confidence. Like I always say this, and these were the things that were more important. But like I ended up teaching people, like from the time I step off the sidewalk, go knock on that door and return to this sidewalk, regardless of what that person says, what's different about me? Nothing. I'm the same person. The only thing I got from them is information. Yes, no, piss off, whatever it was just information. But that was more of an education. That practical experience was more education. I actually look at that as more valuable. Like I'm a counselor now. I know I talk to people. I actually look at that experience as more important than anything I learned in my whole master's program.
Yeah.
Because I learned how to read people with repetition in 5 minutes. 5 minutes at the door. Now, I didn't talk to 200,000 people.
No.
But I, going up and doing it enough times, I probably talked to just cold door, I probably talked to 10%, 20,000 or better people in that interaction. And then that doesn't count my regular route sales for where I would stop at 100 plus houses a day, 5 days a week for the, for the 6 years that I did route sales. So I did lots and lots of personal interaction, just like you're teaching Garrett, just like, James works in construction, and that's if he doesn't go to college for some kind of sports scholarship, construction, he's getting practical hands-on knowledge that actually makes sense, that actually is worthwhile.
Yeah, that it just, and he'll probably, when he turns 16, probably do a GED. We've actually been looking into that a little bit too. So actually, in the state of Idaho, if you homeschool your kids, you can actually give them a high school diploma that is recognized by colleges from homeschool.
Yeah.
Like, they don't have to go through this like a GED course or anything like that. And it's funny because I was looking into it a little bit, and I mean, I don't know about you, but I've never been asked for my high school diploma.
Nope, never.
In my entire life. When I started college, they asked what high school I went to.
Yeah, right.
But I never got had to prove anything. You know what I mean? So yes, the society says you need one.
Right.
And I think it helps with just building a I finish something type thing in a person.
Yeah, that I agree with.
But I was reading on firms that require a high school diploma, right? And how many of them actually require to see the diploma or a transcript or something like that. They look at a homeschool high school published diploma higher than look at a GED.
Huh. Interesting.
And in states that there's no oversight for homeschool, there's no oversight for writing your kid a diploma. Huh. It's so crazy to look at it that way. Now, I just did a quick analysis and data analysis on looking at it. But I was just looking into it to try to figure out, what the deal was and how. So Idaho, Montana, Texas, Louisiana, there's a couple other, there's 6 or 7 states that you can do that with homeschooling stuff. Georgia just changed to where you have to actually
have some
it's kind of like a GED, but it's a lot less involved. Once they go through homeschool, once they get 16, you can send them to a place to do a standardized test that an 18-year-old high schooler would have to take, like an exit test.
Right.
And if they score over an 80%, they get a high school diploma.
Nice. Okay.
So, but
that's one of those, and we're the GED, and I've heard some parents that I've talked to say, "Oh no, people look down on that." Did you know that if you score high enough on the GED, it'll actually give you college credit?
That's what you said earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when people look at it or scoff it off or whatever, no, it depends on you. It really depends on how well you do with it. The GED scoring is out of 200. If you score you have to get a 145 or higher, which is basically like a 70%.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a C.
Yeah.
In my world.
Right.
I think it's different now, but
yeah. Oh yeah. You 145 or higher, and that's passing. But if you get a 175 or higher, which is a 90% or better on the test, you can earn up to 10 college credits.
Good gracious.
Yeah. So you do well enough, you take it to a community like NIC, North Idaho College here is the one that administers our GED. They basically will say, okay, you scored this high in these categories. We're going to give you your first year of college credit because you scored that high.
And so that's how it should be.
Right.
If you're going to have some kind of testing, have a reward for doing really well on it.
Yeah.
Because if there's zero reward for a GED, then why would you ever study harder than 70%?
Yeah.
Because it's not gonna say your score on your GED.
No. No.
So why would you ever push to be harder?
No.
You know, so a lot of, I think, going back to schooling, and I know we're running short on time, but a lot of the school is set up to get you to the lowest point of acceptability.
Yep.
It is not challenging.
No.
I mean, they've taken honor classes out of and gifted classes out of almost every school across the nation.
Yep.
You know, I was in gifted when I was from 8th through 10th grade. I was in gifted classes.
Yeah.
Is what they called it back then, or honors classes, or whatever it's called.
Yeah, gifted and talented is what they call it.
Yeah. But they've taken all that away.
Yeah.
So they literally only want you, as long as you get to that minimum point of passing, they're okay with it.
Well,
They get their funding, they get there, and they're okay with it.
You're prepared to be a widget in a factory.
That's exactly right.
And that's all.
And I want more for my children, for myself, for everybody. You know,
well, and that's the way it should be. You know, we should want that more. We should want that next step for them. But like you said, stepping out, figuring out ways like you guys are, like we have with our own kids.
Yeah.
You know, we used the system for a while, and we're still using it, but we're using it our way versus using it their way. So do what you can, but there's so much more to it. I agree completely. So Dathan, we're there, sir. We are there. So final thoughts. What are you thinking?
Don't be afraid to step outside of the norm that the world tells you have to follow. Yeah. Whether that be with the education system. I'm not saying that homeschooling and different alternatives is right for everybody. But there are a lot of kids and a lot of people out there that it is right for. Yeah. Don't deny it. It's a difficult road, but it can be way more beneficial than the standardized road that teaching a kid to the bare minimum is right now.
Yeah, I was to say, look for the alternatives, especially if your kid flourishes, does well, excels, great. But if they're struggling, if it just doesn't seem to fit, look for the alternatives because they exist. They're out there.
They are.
And it's not a one size fits all system. You have to customize what works best so that you can flourish, so that you can be better. With that, we conclude another episode of Distracted Thoughts. Thank you all for being here, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Have a great day.